Here is how to be a video gamer forever in less than 60 seconds. Now hear me out. If you're anything like me, then you love games.
We are all one decision away from changing our lives forever, and a lot of us don't even know it. And the difference between the decisions you make today and the ones that you made last year, if they've gotten you to where you are right now, they were not good decisions. And so if we want to have more power in our lives, we have to first understand what power is, and second, how to unlock it through the actions and decisions that we make. And if you have a company or a business or a job where you need to influence other people, or you need to get people to say yes, or you need people to make decisions, or most importantly, make decisions for yourself that are going to change your life for the better, then we have to understand what the topic means. If you don't know who I am, my name is Alex Hormozi, IonAcquisition.com. And 10 years ago, I was sleeping on a gym floor, and 10 years later, I am now in my mom's basement. That is how much better my life. Kidding. This is actually a penthouse, and I like to work in a closet because I like having the quiet and not having distractions. But my life has gone significantly better. And I recently spoke at Coaching Con, and they wanted me to talk about this specific topic because there were a series of events and decisions that made massive differences in my life, and I broke them down. And after I gave the speech and got off stage, I had hundreds of people who messaged me saying that speech was one of the things that made them take huge strides in their life and honestly made them more powerful. And that is all I want for you, Mozi Nation, is to become more and more powerful so that we can all make the world a better place. All right, so enjoy the presentation, and I'll see you guys on the other side. It's just great to be here. So thank you guys so much. I promise that I will do my absolute best to give you a high return on your attention because it's the most valuable thing you guys have. So I just want to thank you for investing it here with me today. So, that being said, the reason I went up with Gold Digger is because we all know who's the real person who makes the money in the family. And so I picked right. That's, by the way, the best passive income strategy in existence is just to marry someone rich. They don't talk about that one, right? The second thing, though, that I want to talk about is power. And I think that, actually, before I get into that, who here wants to be powerful? Awesome. And that's not everybody who raised their hand, which is interesting. And I think I find it interesting because I ask that question sometimes, and in an audience, sometimes it's easier to remain anonymous. But one-on-one, when you stare at someone's eyes, you're like, do you want to be powerful? A lot of people shrink away from that. And I think it's because, at least me, when I was coming up, I had negative associations with the word. To me, power was like the Emperor in Star Wars, you know, with the lightning, bold fingers, anybody? And so to me, that was like power, but I saw it as a negative thing. And I feel like as I developed, I started to learn that power is neutral. You can be incredibly powerful and bad, incredibly powerful and good. And so the idea is if we can harness power, then it amplifies who we are. And if we're shitty people, then we're very, very shitty people. And if we're very good, we're very, very good. And so I hope that all of us aspire to have more power in our lives. And that is the underlying theme of the presentation I'm going to talk to you guys about today. So, decision making. Who's so excited about decision making? Well, I'll give you the subheadline, which is selling with logic to make lots of money. And I think there are different selling styles. Because I've trained a lot of sales teams, we've built a lot of sales teams, sold a lot of different industries now. People sell differently. Who here would consider themselves like an emotional seller? Like you get like emotionally invested in the prospect, you get them to cry, anybody like that? You know what I'm saying? Cool. Who here is somebody who is more of a like, I'm not gonna let you leave types of, you know who you are, just raise your hand. I am that way too sometimes. All right, just me, fair enough. And then the third is kind of logical selling, which is like, let's just talk through this. And if it makes sense, let's do it. And if it doesn't, no worries. Between those three types, I tend to actually be more of a logical seller in general. And I've gotten a lot of acclaim, rightfully or not. That was wild. Sorry. I actually have a fear of birds. So this was about to be a very short presentation. And so a lot of my like success using logic in sales has given me a lot of acclaim, and this is the first presentation that I've put together, so this is just for you guys. This is a brand new presentation because I've been thinking about like reverse engineering. What are the things, what are the frameworks we think about to get to yes, right? And the yes that I want from somebody is not a yes I'm going to buy, but yes I'm going to decide. And I think if you can delineate that for yourself too, it takes a little bit of the pressure off selling. Because my goal is to give this person power. And you have to understand what power is in order to give it, right? Who here knows the definition of power? Go for it. I love that. Thought to existence is what he said, which is actually a really favorite way. So the dictionary definition is the ability to influence or direct events or people. That's the dictionary definition. But I love how you said it, because as I see omnipotence, so God or a God figure, would be as they think it appears. So the distance between thoughts and reality there is no distance, right? That would be an omnipotent being. If he thinks the world exists, right? And so as we take steps towards that as the ideal, we become more powerful. And if we can do that for our prospects, we can allow them to step into the person they want to be and make a decision to own their shit one way or another. Does that make sense? Cool. All right, so let's rock. So this will either be the best presentation on sales you've ever heard, the worst presentation on sales you've ever heard, or somewhere in between. That is a promise. All right? And so I thought it would make sense to start with this. We have a high, this is Charlie Munger, who's probably like my number one hero in this season of my life. We have a high moral responsibility to be rational. And I think that getting someone to rationally decide is important, because emotional buyers oftentimes get excited, they'll buy, and then who's had somebody who calls them 2 days later, is like, I don't know why. Anybody? Raise your hand. Just so you know you're not alone. Okay. And what happens is, it's just like dating. I think Layla talked about it yesterday. If you have a rational foundation for a relationship or a decision, when the emotions fade, the logic will continue. And so it's good to answer both sides of the decision-making process. The short-term side is the emotion that gets you to decrease your action threshold and take a step, right? But the logic is what makes it stick and actually makes you a great customer, all right? And so for me, and I think that the further along you get in business and the higher up you get in business, the more you'll see people who tend to make more logical decisions, more logic-first decisions, and fewer emotional decisions. All right? So, what does rational logical have to do with selling? Well, you have logical buyers and you have emotional buyers in general, right? Most people sit on this continuum, one way or the other. And emotionally, people want to believe you. People want to buy. You must help their logical brains justify the decision that they already want to make. Think about it that way. They want to buy from you. You have to help them, right? So, who here identifies, actually, I'll skip through this. Emotional, logical, you're probably in between. Anybody in between these two? Anyone? All right, then you'll love this. So, before we get started, I thought I would give you a few beliefs about selling that have served me very well throughout the years. Number one, people want to believe you, they want to buy, you must help their logical brains justify the decision. Two, selling happens before you ask for the sale. Closing happens after. So you're selling for a lot longer period of time. But the moment you kind of like take your pants off and you're like, this is what it is, that's when you're closing, right? You have now solicited. Now you close. 3, it's easier to handle obstacles than objections. I'll get to what the difference between those are in a second. That being said, expect and plan for no. It is not failure, it is expected. So stop being surprised. So one of the first things we talk new sales guys into is expect no. That's a part of this. If they already were going to say yes, then you are not necessary. No is the job, right? If they could make the decision on their own, they would just send you the money, right? The reason they're struggling is because they can't and they need your help, which is why sales is actually the first step in coaching. And I see sales as power. If you can have the ability to direct or influence others, that is power. And I feel like it should be made much cooler than I feel like it is. 5, if you didn't get a gasp from the price tag, you didn't go high enough. This is another belief. So for those of you who are afraid to raise your price, if you're not getting gasps, you're not going high enough. Straight up. And when you do it that way, you can always walk down and have a beautiful price anchor. Right? When you say $100,000 first, a grand feels like a rounding error. It's true. But when I say $10 first, like I'm saying right now, $10, then I say 1,000. Sounds way fucking bigger, doesn't it? So you got to get the gasp, and you got to train your guys. If you have a team, they have to be comfortable with the no, and they have to be comfortable with the gasp. They got to go for the gasp. Be like, dude, you should have heard the gasp on this one, right? There we go. 7. Selling properly is the first step to becoming a coach, right? Your first impressions, the expectations you set dictate the relationship. How you sell, the fact that you use logic in the sale will set you up for success and your client for success in the long run. 8, selling is helping prospects make decisions to help themselves. Like you are helping them help themselves. That's where the power comes from. You are not helping them, you're helping them help them. See the difference? It's nuanced, but it's real. 9, keep the prospect, not the sale, as the priority. It's not about us. The more you can vanish in the sale and magnify them, the better your selling conversations will go. Because it's not about us. They don't care about you. They only care about them. And they will talk about themselves as long as they'll let them. This is a really important one, especially when you start to getting into closing. Seek to understand, not to argue. And the way that I train our sales teams around this is childlike curiosity. So when someone objects to something, it's like, that's so weird. I wouldn't have thought that. Tell me more about that, right? And you get to be able to maintain that childlike curiosity the same way they train fighters to not breathe too much during a fight, through exposure. The more times you get into these uncomfortable, high-stakes closing scenarios, the less weird and high stakes they become because they become what you do every day. And the good thing is, you get to have this conversation hundreds and thousands of times, and they only get to have it once. So you fucking better be better at it than them. Closing is a dance, not a fight. It's seduction, not rape. I mean, I'm being super serious about this. The goal is not to beat them into submission. The goal is to sell from your back foot. And if that means not doing this, then I fucking love it. I'm with you. I'm on your team. It's a belief over a bridge of trust. Therefore, there are 2 things that are required. You must believe so that you can transfer it, and you must have trust to make the transfer. Because if you truly believe it, and a lot of times, anyone been on a hot streak when they're selling? Anyone? Anyone who just had their hand up ever been on a cold streak? Most times you go from hot to cold not because you forgot how to sell, because you stop believing in what you're selling. You have the same skills as you did the day before. But sometimes you get a text, you get an email, you get a pain in the ass customer, you ask for a refund, whatever the hell it is, right? And then you question yourself. And so that bridge might have been created, but there was nothing to walk across it because your cup wasn't full. And so that's why, especially it's you in the beginning, but your teams over time, the process of filling conviction is one of the easiest and best ways to increase someone's closing percentage. Better than any of the training in the world. If you get someone to believe, they will sell the right way because they're doing it not to make the deal, because they want to help the other person. 16, you can only build trust if you genuinely want to help. And humans are exceptionally good at sniffing out intention. It is a survival mechanism. You have to know if someone's trying to double cross you. We're very good at smelling it out. And the reason a lot of you guys can't close is because you only care about closing. Belief and trust are a continuum, not binaries. So it's not you believe or don't believe. It's not they trust you or don't trust you, but how much do they trust you? How much do you believe? How deeply do you believe? Because anyone ever been around somebody who just believes balls to bones something that you think's batshit crazy? I mean, all the way. So much so that you start to question what you believe. That's what real conviction does. 18, closers ask hard questions, and it's because you genuinely care. It's why you do it. It's why we're here. Who here wants to impact thousands of lives and help people? Then you gotta fucking ask hard questions. Because it's the only thing that's gonna actually pierce someone's heart and actually get the transformation to happen. If you cannot have transformational conversations, you cannot coach. And this is the first step. The person who cares the most about the prospect wins the sale. That includes them. So if you care more about their well-being than they do, you will win. And if you are more convicted, they will question their own excuses because you are so certain. Little nugget for you. Record all your sales, by the way. Because when you do get on that hot streak, right? When you get on that hot streak and then you get cold again, watch your hot streak. See where you paused, what jokes you made, when you asked for the sale, when you didn't, how you overcame it. And it'll get you back in the flow much faster than trying to question yourself, what do I do, what do I do? Always record all your sales. It's also the easiest way to train new people. And then lastly, 21. Power is the ability to direct or influence people. If you want to be powerful, you must understand this skill. And that's what we're going to talk about. Cool? Awesome. When does selling happen? Does it happen when they're a lead? Does it happen when we're qualifying them? Does it happen when we solicit the sale? Does it happen when we close the sale? When does the selling happen? All the time. The entire time selling is happening. But what are we going to talk about today? Just this. Just closing. Everything you have to do after asking someone to buy. Why are we doing that rather than the entire process? Beyond the fact that we'd be here all day, the other reason, and I love this, is that closing has one of the highest predictors of success in business. And here's an analogy for it. Everyone familiar with the NFL? Great. So here's an insane statistic. The top 5 red zone offenses in the league now, last 5 years, made the playoffs 90% of the time. Here's why this is interesting and crazy. There's a million other stats. They could have horrible defenses. They could have terrible coaching. They could have a terrible whatever it is, right? They could have all these things that are wrong with they could have terrible special teams, whatever. But just this one stat, if they're in the red zone, they fucking close. And I can tell you, if you have this ability, if you have this skill, it will make up for a tremendous amount of deficiencies in other areas of your life and business. And it will buy you time to learn those. But if you can't close, it's very difficult to grow in business, especially in the beginning, because it's probably you. That's why we're talking about closing. Why is this important from a money-getting perspective? Well, first off, if you have 100 people walk in the door, 10% are never going to buy. Just accept that, right? Problem is you don't know which 10% it is. But 10% are never going to buy. 10% are always going to buy. You just got to not fuck it up. And most of you guys, these are the only sales you're getting. They're like, well, I'm already here. My friend told me about you. I have my credit card out. Some of you are like, well, let's make sure. You're like, just shut the fuck, just take the card. You know what I mean? Like, shut up, right? That's like, hey, my friend's so awesome. You got to meet him. And she's like, oh my God, he's great. And then the guy starts talking and she's like, oh, just kidding. Like, terrible, right? But this is what we fight for. This is what we train. And if you want to make a big impact, that's what we're fighting for. It's the middle 80. Why this presentation will make you money. If after this presentation you just have one more bullet, one more play in your arsenal to close, or I get you one more deal a month, I'll feel like my job was done. All right? And hopefully, if you just do that, it'll pay for your entire weekend. All right? That's my goal for the presentation, that everything that you guys have done this whole weekend is paid for. Is that cool? Fair outcome? So this is one of my favorite sayings. You're only one decision away from changing your life forever. And whenever I feel overwhelmed, or I feel like I'm decreasing, like I feel powerless, or I feel like I have less power than I want to have, I always say this to myself because it's like, I can take one decision and change fucking everything. You know what I mean? Like, I can drink a bottle of Jack, get in the car, I can change everything with one decision, right? I can make a step to invest in something. I can buy something. I can invest in myself. I can have a terrible conversation with Layla, or I can have an amazing conversation with Layla. But just one decision. And that's always given me power. But the thing is that instead of changing our lives, we blame. When I say blame, I want you to think, give power to sources outside of our control. And this is what you, and this is what your prospects and your customers are doing. And this is why so many people are weak and powerless. And so we're going to do a fun activity today, because I want you to be involved so you can learn it. We're going to do this so that, 1, you can help decisions to help yourself, whatever decisions you're facing. 2, you can use these frameworks to help prospects help themselves. And then 3, become more powerful. So, but rather than keep this hypothetical, I need you to visualize the decision that you need to make. All right? You do that for me? Fantastic. And this is why. I want you to actually think through a decision together, because this is a statement from Confucius. I hear and I forget. I see and I remember. I do and I understand. So my goal here isn't for you to take screenshots of every picture or of every slide. That's not my point here, because the thing is when you do that and you this is why I do it. I take pictures so that I don't have to remember it. But I don't want you to remember it. I want you to understand it. If you understand it, you won't have to go back to your notes, because let's be real, half the time you're not even going to open these notes up again. You're here now with me. Try and understand. If you do that, it can change your life. Because what we're going to do is not going to be some scripts that you have to understand, but the logic behind the arguments that people will give you as to why they are not choosing to become more powerful. And if you can unlock that, people will feel more powerful talking to you, and they will want to buy from you because of the feeling they have. Does that make sense? And so that's when you're using logic to create an emotion. So, here's an easy one for you. Anyone here presented with a decision in the last 24 hours? Yes? Great. Fantastic. So, who thinks the decision could change your life for the better? Great. For the worse? Who knows? All right, let's go. So here's my goal. I want to show you, as though you were a prospect, how to think through a decision and help others using these frameworks, right? What you want, what you don't want. Maximize the left, minimize the right. So here's what this is translated to. If you decided to buy the offer, you feel more certain about your decision. If you decided not to buy the offer, you feel fucking certain about the decision. And if you're undecided, you make a fucking decision, all right? And you feel good that it's the one that has the highest likelihood of getting you closer to where you want to go. And this is what we have to walk through with our prospects. When you're looking at them, you have to be like, I don't want you to buy. I want you to decide for you, not for me. I'll be the same either way, right? You're like, I'm going to be ripped and in shape. It's not going to change me, right? Like, that's not going to change. But like, it will change for you, right? So, quick note on sales ethics, and then we'll dive in. Helping someone make a decision to help themselves does not mean buying from you. That's a reiteration. You have to keep their goals at the center of the decision, and you should be happy. I mean this, because if you can shift this truly, if you can be happy when someone decides to own the power and not work with you, then the pressure around sales disappears. It evaporates. There's no stake. The stake is, did I help them? Does that make sense? And that means that you can win every sale because you change the metric you're measuring yourself by. That's the superpower. And that's where you do make the most sales, because you don't care about the sale, because you care about the person. And the people pay the most attention. So I call it paying attention. They pay for it. They pay for you to pay attention rather than talking about yourself, right? Because they don't care about you, because they're thinking about 100 other things. And this is why. Most importantly, make high-stakes decisions to help your prospects in order to best serve them. Okay, so I told you earlier I was going to talk about the difference between obstacles and objections. A couple of you guys raised your hands. But the differences, I'm not going to ask, I'll tell you what it is. Obstacle is a thing that blocks one's way or prevents or hinders progress. When you disagree with them, that is an obstacle. This happens before you solicit the sale. Someone says some bullshit before you even get to the sale, that's an obstacle. A simple example I hear all the time. Hey, why'd you hop on the call today? Hey, why'd you walk in the gym today? Whatever it is, right? Them, I just wanted to find out a little bit more about the program. First 10 seconds, obstacle. You're not here to find out more about the program. You're because you're fat. But they got to say it. So you're like, oh, so you're finding out, do you do this all the time? Do you go to lots of different programs to find out information? Or is there a problem you're trying to solve? They're like, oh, well, I'm trying to lose weight. Like, oh, got it. So you're not just hopping on 100 calls a day, because I was like, that would be a very weird existence, right? You just hop on for information all day. Ha, 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 ha. Great. Fantastic. I've had this conversation before, right? So it's an obstacle, right? And the thing is, it's easy to confront and destroy obstacles before you ask for the sale. Once you've asked for the sale, you switch to objections. Objections is when they disagree with you. So it's much easier to be on the other side, disagreeing and helping them break their beliefs before the stake has been presented. After you're in the red zone, it's all closing. It's all objection overcomes, right? Example, dad's like, I don't want to buy right now. And you're like, totally understand. What are the main criteria you're thinking through? Which is always funny, because people are like, I need to think about it. I've never had someone leave because they need to think about it. I'm like, cool, what are you thinking about? And they're like, oh, I'm still here. Right? So learning how to talk through these high stakes decisions with yourself or others is the purpose of the presentation, and as a result, you'll become more powerful. Okay, so before I dive into each of these arguments, I have to make this one statement, is that the person must really want the goal and believe three things. One, which we'll get to, there we go. The product will get them the goal, comma, the way they want to get there. And I learned that second half the hard way, because we found out in gym launch that people would say no sometimes to buying memberships, right? Or buying challenges or whatever. But when we offered them the ability to come back the next day, help them for free, we'd sell them $400 of supplements. And they just said no to a $100 down service thing. I'm like, what the fuck? It's because they want to lose weight. They want to lose weight their way. And so that's when I started learning, oh, not only do we have to make sure that they want the goal and they believe that the product's going to get them there, it has to get them there the way they want to get there. This gives you ammo for the questions that you're going to ask. Does this make sense? Okay. The second thing is that you and others will support them. Are you telling me the truth? Is this really what's going to happen? Will other people around me support this decision? Real quick, can I get your email address? Because I want to send you $1,000 of free stuff. Specifically, tools and training and a community of people who will help you make your first dollar online. And listen, you don't have to believe me. You can just listen to Hugo here, who made $26,000 on his first try helping people make AI avatars. Or Sharif, who made $16,000 on his first shot helping people get remote jobs. Or Pablo, who got to $22,000 help people get in shape. Or you got Owen, who got to $20,000, help people craft high-ticket offers. You got Simon, who got to $17,000, helping content creators grow. You got Logan, who helps blue-collar businesses grow their businesses. And then Roy, who got to $32,000, help people stretch. And listen, there's so many different ways that people build communities on Skool. But here's the crazy thing. Everybody that I just showed you, the average of your month was $34,000. And that is not typical at all. These are the top winners from last month. And that's not normal because we have thousands of people. But let me show you what the average paid community owner makes on Skool. That was pretty nifty, right? $1,360 per month. So no, you're not going to get on the Forbes list. You're not going to be in Fortune 100, but it can help you get started. And the best part is all that free stuff that I'm going to give you, you can get it absolutely free. Click the link, start for free. I'll see you on the other side. Should we do it?
Yeah.
All right, see you there.
Give me 30 seconds so I can show you the trading strategies that allowed me to become a full-time trader and quit my job 2 years ago while also designing a lifestyle I love with less than an hour of work per day. In fact, if you've been trading for at least 3 months and you still aren't profitable, I'm about to tell you why. Because I've been trading for 7 years and I know how hard it is to learn to trade the right way. And I've tried everything from moving averages to head and shoulders, support resistance to wedges, and none of this actually works. And even between that and my 9 to 5, the reality of being a full-time trader seemed impossible until I started learning the secrets of how smart money moves the markets. And once I started trading with them, it got a whole lot easier. And that's how I've been able to travel the world and trade full-time for the last 2 years. Because I started trading with the strategies that were proven to work and just copied what the pros were already doing. Now I want to give you that same opportunity, which is why I've created The Vault. The Vault is my free community that now has over 6,000 students in it. And the best part is they're all crushing it. You can see tons of different wins here, and this goes on for pages and pages and pages. Not only are my proven and back-tested strategies inside of here, but also are my 6-figure trading coaches inside as well. They live trade every single week, showing you exactly where to buy and sell. And if that is not enough for you, I've also added in my personal scanners, templates, and tools that allowed me to scale my account past $100,000. And I'm giving this away to you for free, so you can not only learn to trade the right way, but learn to trade with your 9 to 5, because there's actually a pretty easy way to do it. Now I want to invite you personally to join The Vault for free, but you have to join now, because I'm going to make it paid soon. So if you want to get lifetime access for free to the strategies that allow me to quit my full-time job and trade full-time, click the button below and join now. You're going to see a page that looks like this, where you can get for free and get access to my strategies instantly, while also have the chance to watch a 6-figure trader trade live in action every single week. So click the button below, and I'll see you inside for live trading.
And the third is that it will work for them and not just everyone else. Sure, I've seen the people who step on the stage, but they're different than me. I'm a snowflake. I have metabolic thyroid ketosis, right? Whatever. I have zero influence allergy, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I have no following itis, right? Whatever it is, right? Whatever bullshit you tell yourself. And what you have to do in this situation is you have to provide proof so that it'd be more unreasonable not to believe than to believe. And this is a logical close. This is not an emotional close. This is when you look at someone and say, how many people would you need to see for it to be more unreasonable for you not to believe than to believe? At what point? Is it 10? Is it 50? Well, here's 1,000. Tell me when to stop. Okay. Great. So that's not the real reason. And then you can confront the real shit. All right? So otherwise, if they're not sure of those things, if they don't actually want to lose weight, if you don't actually want to make money doing online fitness, then it doesn't matter what Jason says. You don't want to make money doing online fitness, then you're not going to buy, right? If you do want to make money doing online fitness, then you go down the train tracks. That make sense? Okay. Again, this is why you expect no at first, because if people could make the decision, they would have already made it. All right, now to the main course. Richard Feynman, besides Charlie, one of my favorite thinkers of all time. He was like the second guy on the atom bomb. Sounds negative. Brilliant teacher. He's known for this. Understand, don't memorize. Learn principles, not formulas. And that's what the rest of this presentation is about, is the principles behind overcoming these distortions that people have. And so this is me asking you for your own sake. Don't take pictures of the slides. It's because all the stuff's going to be in the recordings, but you are here now, so be here now, so you can understand it, okay? So, there are 3 sources. This is a huge breakthrough for me, so I'm going to share it with you the first time I'm trying to share it live. There are 3 sources that we cast our power to, okay? And it took me a very long time to get through this because I looked at Grant, and he had his, you got Stahl, decision maker, money. And you talk to Barry, who owns Sage. He's like, you got time, fit, money, fear, shame, right? Those are hers. And then Jordan Belfort's got his. And so everybody's got like, these are the only overcomes, right? I was like, there has to be an actual truth here. Like there has to be something that's true that's unquestioned. And so trying to figure this out, I actually went back to Dr. Albert Ellis. Anybody who know who he is? No, great. Who here knows what cognitive behavioral therapy is? CBT? He invented it. Smart dude. And so what he noticed is that he originally had 11 distortions of reality, then he dropped it to 9, then to 7, and then he came to 3, and the 3 stuck. And the 3 are what I'm about to share with you. You're like, why is he talking about this about sales? Because the objections that people offer you where they cast their power to are distortions of reality. They are the things we use to upset ourselves. These are the 3. Circumstances, and this is the irrational statement that people make. I must get what I want when I want it. I must not get what I don't want. If I don't get what I want, I can't stand it. That's when people blame their emotional disturbances on circumstances. 2, others. Other people must treat me fairly and kindly, and if they don't, they are no good and deserve to be condemned and punished. It's like your animal brain, right? 3, self. I must do well or else I am no good. These are the 3 core distortions that upset people. This is like mental illness, right? And so I'm not saying anyone has mental illness if they don't agree with you. It's more so that these are distortions that are not real. And if you can understand, not memorize, if you can understand this, then you can have these high stakes conversations understanding exactly which distortion they're suffering from. And I'll show you how to overcome them, okay? And so I like to consider like the onion of blame. This is like one of the bigger breakthroughs I had. They start with the outside. They blame circumstances, time, money, other shit. And then the step next to that, they start to blame other people, my spouse, my kids, my employees. And then finally they say like, it's me, it's my fault. And so you might have to overcome multiple layers as you peel back. And based on the objection they give you, you can know where you're at. You know how close you are. If someone just says, I have to think about it, and you're like, great. I'm talking to the person who's in power and the decision maker, and I just need to get them to say yes. If they're like, I don't have, they're casting the power away. Some of you guys are probably casting your power away on decisions you need to make, which is why I'm making the presentation. Even though that these are the things that distort people's realities, because you're like, no one's ever said circumstances are getting in my way, right? No one says that. Right? They manifest in 5 ways that I want to equip you to deal with, all right? For yourself and others. So these are the 5 most common excuses, scapegoats, that people use. And if you find other ones, these are the biggest buckets, because I didn't want to have 100 things here, but the big 3 buckets are circumstances, others, and self, right? But they manifest with time in multiple ways, and I'll show you how. Value, price, money, etc. Fit, I'm a special snowflake. Others, which is I don't have the authority to make the decision. And then finally self, which is if I just don't make the decision, let life make it for me, right? Avoidance, stall. You go from surface level to core. And as a side note, you should never get stuck on the stuff near the top. And ideally, you should really never get stuck anywhere on this equation if the person wants what you have and you truly believe in what you have to help them. And I mean that. Like, if you understand this thoroughly, you can walk someone towards helping themselves. Okay, this is what they look like, or this is what they sound like in reality. Not a good time right now. I'm really busy, right? That's time. Can't afford it. Too expensive. Fit. Not sure if it's for me. I hate broccoli. I can't do a plan with broccoli, right? Can't do a plan where I have to DM people every day. It's against my brand. I'm poor, but it's against my brand, right? Authority. Have to talk to my partner, spouse. I have to talk to somebody who has more power than me. It's funny, because when you start thinking this way, it sounds silly. And then avoidance. I need to think about it. Clearly. Let's think about it now. All right? And so I told you I want you to think about the principles behind these things, not memorize. You've got circumstances, you've got other people, and you have yourself. And we drill down. So, quick test. Who here is physically in the room? Raise your hand. Wonderful. Arms are working. We're rocking. So, here's my ask. Raise your hand if you or your prospects present with this distortion. So who here is a time person? I'm busy, it's not a good time, maybe in the future. Anyone deal with these? Sometimes it's yourself? Totally. So I'm also going to tell you a secret about this. I think the reason I got pretty decent at logical arguments is because I am inherently skeptical. And I will paralyze myself from not doing anything unless I have really sound reasons to do it. And I realized that I couldn't move forward and make any progress in my life until I had these frameworks to think through these hard decisions through so I could start taking steps where I wanted to go. It took me years to get there. And so hopefully I can give you some keys that help me unlock my own head to get out of my own fucking way so that you can too and help your clients. All right? So the way I think about time, and there's a lot of overcomes for all of these things. What I tried to do was bunch the three biggest ones that I like to use most frequently. And if I veer from like the bullets on the screen, it's because I'm riffing with you and I'd rather just kind of stay in the flow. Is that cool? Okay, fantastic. So when you're overcoming this one, each of these is kind of a specific angle that you're attacking it from. So macro is like, this is a busy season for me. Got lots of stuff going on, right? Micro is like, I don't have any time in my day. So you're one person saying I've got lots of shit going on, one person's like I can't find the time. It's different. Sounds subtle, but it's both about time, but in different ways. All right. And then the last one is, well, when I have time, I'll start. Right? Which everyone knows is fucking horseshit, but whatever. Okay. So, as always, we never disagree with prospects because you're not in a fight. Totally get it. Totally understand. Do you think, do you want this to be something that lasts for the long term? Right? It's a question. You're like, yeah. Do you think that you're going to be busy again in the future? Well, yeah. So you want this to last in the long run, and you do think you're going to be busy again in the future. Well, then don't you think it'd be best to start now when you are busy? Because if you learn how to do it when you're busy, you'll be able to do it forever. If you can only learn it during a perfect circumstance, then you're going to fall off when it gets busy again. And isn't that the time you'd want to have the most support? It goes for you guys too. Well, that's just number one. You got so many lore. Right? And so when you knock that out, the goal is that the person says, well, fuck, that's not a good reason. You just take one step towards the truth. So when you're thinking about it, it's not like, oh, I've got to overcome this one thing and then they'll buy. You got to keep peeling. And if you have this framework, you understand the direction you're going in. And you can start listening for they're talking about themselves now. I've gotten 2 layers deeper, right? So that's seasonal. Micro. You can't tell someone in a sale, hey, take out your phone, take out your hours by week, pull it up. Oh, look, 22 hours on social media this week. You've got time. So you say it differently. You say, you know what, I had the same issue. And I used to complain all the time about like how I didn't have time to be successful and do the things I needed to do. And my wife got so sick and tired of me saying this, she pulled my phone out and she was like, look, I guess I just found you time, didn't I? I was like, ah, fuck. And you can say it that way, and then a prospect feels better. Does anybody here feel like they don't have time? Right? And the first thing that any program is going to do, if it's a good program, is going to cut out the 90% of the shit that you are doing, which is causing you to feel overwhelmed, which is probably the real reason you feel like you don't have time. Jeff Bezos got the same time you do, right? It's just, what are the things that you're doing that he's not? It's not about adding shit to your plate. It's about removing the stuff that's not working. Because clearly everything you're doing that's filling your time is not making you more money. So you're doing the wrong shit. So there's going to be plenty of time. Because all the stuff you're doing now is not working. Right? Sounds simple. But that's the reason, right? So we want macro, micro. When then? Hey, in the future, when I've got time, I'll totally sign up for your program. Right? Anyone heard this one? Anyone say this one? Right? And again, you want to empathize. You don't say like, oh, that's bullshit. You say, totally understand. I was stuck like this for years. If you can step in their shoes, you're not attacking them. You actually go from the inside out. You step into their self, and then you walk them through the epiphany that you experienced. And it doesn't feel judgmental. It feels helpful. Does that make sense? I used to feel the same way, right? And I found this out actually from Jason Fladley, and he was the one who told me this. It's a logical fallacy. It's called the when-then fallacy, which is why it's how I remember it. And the when-then fallacy simply states, when I have X, then I will do Y, but it flips sequence. So it's like, when I get better, I will go to the hospital. Sorry, there's just so many like hilarious ones about like money and stuff. Like, I'll start saving money once I'm rich. Like, all right. The thing is that we do this, right? We do this. I'll pay for the program that'll make me more money when I have more money. That's the point of the program. I'll pay for the program that'll help me get a six-pack once I have a six-pack. Once I have more time, which the program's gonna help me have, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's a fallacy. And so what that means is it's a distortion. It's not real. And so the goal of having these high-stakes conversations is simply showing people. We're not attacking. We're just walking them through it and being like, do you realize that this is holding you back? And I know this better than anyone because I'm a skeptical motherfucker. The reason I can do all these logical things is because I'm the first person I'd overcome, right? And you might be too. So, once we attack time from these three angles, depends which one they present with. If they present with one and then move to the next, you can knock all three out. You'll probably find some that make the most sense to you. But the thing here is, it's not about memorization. You just got to get it. You want the most help when you are busy so that it can stick forever. Yes, time. My wife showed me my phone. Turns out I got fucking time. But the reality is, it's not about what I am doing. It's about the stuff I got to stop doing. And that's what I help you with, right? This isn't scripting. This is just understanding, right? And then when then? It's a fallacy. It's a distortion. It's not real. And then just use two crazy examples like, once I have money, then, or I'll save money when I'm rich, right? It's just like ridiculous. Okay, so what did we do? One reason down, we're getting closer to the core, right? Right. So, who here is somebody who's like, I can't afford it, it's too expensive, or has heard this from a prospect? I was like, I better see everybody's hand. Especially if you're selling high ticket, which hopefully you get a gasp. So these are the four frameworks that I think through. There's a million like money closes. These are the ones that I like the most and that to me resonate the best, right? And so why a lot is good is kind of like my first one here. And so the reason that if someone gasps or think that this is a lot of money, you just ask them, is this a lot of money to you? And they're going to say, yeah. If they say no, then you're like, awesome, buy it. And if they say yes, right? And if they say yes, then you're like, that's the exact reason why you're going to be successful. Because there's other people who buy this thing and you know what? They're not all in on it. But the question is, do you want to draw the line in the sand and go all in? Do you want to step over the line and be the person you want to be? Because I can tell you that this is not about whether this works or not. I've already proven that. The question is whether you work or not. And so if you put more on the line, then you have a higher likelihood of being successful. So you should be the last person to be worried about this. I'm more excited because the best stories are always coming from people like you in your exact situation. So don't let that be a reason not to do it. That should be the reason to do it. So the next one is like, why is this not a lot? So first is, the fact that it's a lot for you is good. It means you're going to try hard. The second one is like, well, it's a lot in terms of absolute amount, but relative amount, it's very little, right? Because if all this does is add $10,000 a month to your income, is it worth it? If all this does is get you into a bikini, is it worth it? Yeah. And so then what happens, and the reason that this is a stepping process, right, is that we're just taking these objections out of the way so we can get the person to confront reality, not a distortion they've created, because the reality is the thing they're afraid of. And so what happens is when they say, yeah, if it did that, it would be worth it, right? The problem is they don't believe you, right? And so it's like, great, then it's not about the price. It's about whether you believe me. So you can sidestep it. Does that make sense? We're taking a step closer. And then obviously you can use a comparison, depending on what you're selling. If you can price anchor with like, well, here, they don't have a 4-year degree for doing online fitness. That's why the alternative education industry exists. And it's because the formal education has failed most of us, right? Anybody graduated here with a 4-year degree? Anyone immediately be able to use that 4-year degree to get leads, make sales? No, me neither, right? And what's crazy is that some of these degrees are $50,000, $100,000, $200,000 and take 4 years when you've got something that can help you make that entire amount of money in half the time, right? For a tenth of the price. When you think about it like that, frame, it's actually a great deal. Does that make sense? So you just frame it. You have to give context, all right? So number one is the fact that it's a lot for you is good. It means you're actually going to try. Number two is if it does what we say it's going to do, the value is there. So that's not actually what you're opposed to, which then we can take the next step, all right? Number three is, what's money good for anyways? This is actually one of my favorite lines of reasoning for a variety of reasons, and I'll get to it. When you're looking at a prospect, you're looking at yourself, you're going to spend this money either way over the next 12 months. You're going to spend it, right? And in fact, not only are you going to spend it, you're going to buy the program. The question is whether you're going to pay for it in money or pay for it in time. And so, you can learn every single lesson that's in this program, whether it's losing weight, getting leads, selling online, whatever it is, right? You're going to learn these lessons. But do you want it to take 12 weeks or 12 years? And the question is, are you going to be able to live 1,000 lifetimes because of the 1,000 people that we've helped just like you and gathered all those lessons and put them together so you don't have to do the trial and error for that entire period of time? So the question is not whether you're going to buy it or not, it's just how do you want to pay? And so for me, this is a personal note, and I'll probably say it at the end, but like, the reason we don't move quickly through life is that I will buy other people's mistakes. Because it's the only way you can buy time in this life is to buy the knowledge to take less time from other people who have taken their time. And like, if you think about human civilization in general, Edison took however long to make a light bulb, and then we just bought the lesson from him, and now we have light bulbs, right? And the next guy figures out the next thing, and then we just buy the lesson from him. And that's how we have to move faster. So you're going to spend the money either way. The question is, 12 months from now, is it going to be on shit that didn't get you anywhere or stuff that is going to get you somewhere? And no matter what, you're buying the program. You're just going to pay time or you're going to pay with money. And if we're being real, you've probably been paying for time the last 6 years. How's that working for you? Do you want to do more of that? This is a classic one. It's a very easy one to remember. But like, who here knows the difference between a self-made billionaire when they had nothing and where you're at right now if you have nothing? Zero. You're both broke. They were broke. You were broke. Whatever it is, if that's where you're at right now. The only difference is that proves that if they were successful, it wasn't about the resources they had. It's about how resourceful they were. So I'll tell you a quick story about this. So anyone here read Shoe Dog? Right. Story of Nike. So in the story, he talks about how he was about to lose everything multiple times. It's a great story. And this time it was like it was going to go down. Like it wasn't going to happen. And he needed a tremendous amount of money, and he just didn't have it. He'd extended all his credit lines. The banks wouldn't do it, and the next lenders that they canceled on him, and the company was going to fold because it was growing too fast. At that point, he could have just given up and said, there's nothing I can do. I've maxed out all my cards. I've maxed out all my banks. There's literally nothing I can do. And his people had already worked for free. And they were like, we can't do this anymore. He went to his vendors and said, you need to pay my payroll for me. He went to his vendors. Anybody use like landing page software? Anyone use something from a vendor? Right. It's like going to that guy, like going to your videographer and be like, listen, you got to pay payroll for me this month, because otherwise I'm not going to be able to keep doing business with you because I'll be out of business. Resourceful, not resources. And the reason this is so important is because when you have nothing, it's the easiest excuse to give yourself. You're like, well, I have nothing, that's why I can't. It's like, of course, but every self-made millionaire and every self-made billionaire was self-made. And they started with nothing, which puts them in the exact same seat you are. So the question is, do you want to have power or do you want to not have power? You have power, you're resourceful, not resources, right? And so if we want to make these decisions that are going to help ourselves, we need to step into that. And so when you're talking to your prospects, it's the same thing, right? Does that make sense? Okay, rocking. I mean, and you can drill deeper into this. It's like, do you think there's anyone else who's been in your situation, who's achieved this, or maybe worse than your situation? The answer is yes. And if they can, why can't you? Right? So we're taking steps closer. Are you guys digging this? Okay, cool. Thanks. I wasn't sure if it was rapt attention or sheer boredom. So we're not, you feel what progress we're making? Like the person presents and says, I don't have time, this shit's busy, blah, blah. And you're like, no, we're going to take one step closer. And they're like, you know what? But I don't have the money or it's too expensive. You're like, well, if you don't have the money, you're going to be successful. It's worth it, right? Yes, I understand why it's worth it. Well, you don't need money to begin with, right? You got to be resourceful and you can find the money. Because I'll ask you, this is a fun one for business owners. Who here has had an unexpected bill ever come up? Taxes? Right? Yeah. And then okay, so everyone here is still alive? Who raised their hands? Who here was able to magically pull money out of their ass and figure out a way to do it? Raise your hand. Here's what's crazy. You have the ability to be resourceful when it's for someone else and not for you. And it's because you choose to be powerful when someone else needs it, but not for yourself. Fucked up, right? So stop doing that. If you function like you have to make payroll tomorrow, and like you're back on rent and you're going to get kicked out, you think differently. And if instead of paying your landlord, you're paying you because that's what you want to do, It shifts internally because everyone here just proved the fact that you can be resourceful when you choose to be. So just choose to be. So number 3 is I'm not sure it's a fit for me. So besides the obvious ones, which is like, I don't want to work out, broccoli sucks, I can't do a program where I can't do cardio, whatever the fuck, right? Like I said, I don't want to do DMs, I don't want to post on Instagram, I don't want to have a Facebook group, whatever, right? Whatever the bullshit is, all right? I'm not sure if the vehicle is a fit for me. So usually you can overcome the easy ones, but if someone is just really sticking hard, these are the 3 that I use to shift perspective, okay? So this one is new identity, new priorities. So it's good to have cues for these things, which is like we vote with our dollars about the things that we care about. And if you show me what someone is spending their money and their time on, I can tell you what their future is. And I'll tell you an interesting story. So I had somebody who was just like you, who was like, you know what, I don't want to do this either. And I told her this story. Can I tell you it? Yes. And this is what you'd say to the prospect, right? So I was with Layla, and we went to Sephora, which is a makeup store. And I show up like this. I feel welcomed. And so we're standing there, she's doing something, and I usually stand in the corner like this. And I saw these 2 little girls, it might have been like, I don't know girl age, so like 12 to 15, this. And they were like giggly and so excited, and they had like the girl with the smock came over, was like helping them out. And she was like, okay, this is like eyeliner, and this is lipstick, and this is whatever, blush. I'm just like using words I've heard. This is how you paint your face. And the thing is, the girls were like so excited. And then they were like, right before they left, she was like, girls, she's like, you have to remember, like now that you're getting older and you're becoming a woman, you need to start budgeting for this stuff. All right, so you're going to start buying this every month. All right, so like, remember, you got to save some money for this so you can have it. And the girls were so excited that they were like, yes, like we're becoming women now, and these are the things that women do. It's because when you have new identity, you have new priorities. And so you've had priorities that are aligned with your old identity, right? There's the you that goes out, the you that drinks, the you that does the blah, 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 spends money on shit you shouldn't do, spends time on shit you shouldn't be spending time on, and there's the you that you want to be. So right now, we can draw the line in the sand and be like, do you want to keep walking down the road that you have been walking? And if you don't, then you have to step into a new identity. And with that new identity comes new priorities. People who want to be rich spend money on themselves. They spend money on education. They invest in their skill sets. Because I want to align my identity with the identity of those who came before me who've done the things I want to do. Right? And just like those little girls stepping into that identity, we too must step into the identity we want to be. Does that make sense? And so when you're talking to somebody who's trying to lose weight and they're like, I can't afford a gym membership, and you're like, girl, you're spending $200 on your nails and you've got a $1,000 outfit on, do you think another $1,000 outfit would make you look better, or your high school weight? Right? Do you think another $1,000 outfit would make you look better, or being rich as fuck? And I say that for those of you who are thinking about it on the money side, right? Like, you waste money. Some of you guys have bigger shoe collections than it's like fitness people and shoes. It's like the weird, and Lululemon and spandex. It's like 100 pieces of spandex. Anyways, so it's like your whole wardrobe could be consolidated into a skill that could buy you as many wardrobes as you want if you chose to, right? Okay, rocking. I don't like this certain aspect. This is one of my favorite, easiest ones to hit, which is like, you got to change the change, right? What you have been doing has been getting what you've been getting. And you got to change the change. Because, I remember I would go through meal plans with people, and they'd be like, well, can we change this? Because this is what I eat for breakfast. Can we make that the breakfast? And I'm like, that breakfast makes you look like you. That way you spend your first 4 hours of the day makes your bank account look like what it does look like. Right? Right? Taking steps. Right? We're getting closer to the truth. And so the thing is that it's going to hurt to change, because change hurts. And you've heard this one probably from Tony Robinson. If you haven't, the question is whether the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change. And that's what you just ask someone. And this is in the help part. If someone's like, the pain of staying the same is not worse than this change. It's like, then girlfriend, gain 50 more pounds and come back. You know what I mean? Get there. You know what I mean? Hit rock bottom. This isn't it for you. I'm being real. Some people rock bottom is 12% body fat. Some people, it's 500 pounds. But everyone's got one. You just got to know where yours is. And all you really got to do is just move what rock bottom is for you, which is kind of interesting because you start making a change here, which is kind of interesting as a thought. But are you in enough pain is the question you ask the person. So for those of you who are unwilling to make a change because it feels contrary to like, oh, I don't want to seem salesy. I don't want to help people, like whatever, right? Like, is your current situation more painful than the change that you will have to go through or experience to get to where you want to go? And so the last one is hypothetical. I actually really love this. This is a great framework overall for overcoming lots of different obstacles or objections that present themselves. But the hypothetical, and there's lots of ways of phrasing this, which is like, you've probably heard the unicorn close. You probably heard like, if this were perfect, would you do it? On a scale from 1 to 10, where would this program be? If 10 was amazing and 1 was terrible, where is this? They say a number and you say, cool, what would make it a 10? Why isn't it a 1? Like, you guys heard this scripting before? So you guys are like, no, please talk slower. The reason I said we have to learn the principles behind it rather than memorizing the script is that it all is based on one thing, which is hypothetical, which is, if this were perfect, would you do it? Because you get a hypothetical agreement. And they say yes if it were perfect. The thing is, if you're like, if this were perfect, would you do it? If someone says no, then you're like, girl, okay. Like, let's take 5 steps back. Does my breath smell? Yeah. Because the thing is they've actually told you a lot there. It's like, it has nothing to do with the stuff you're talking about. They don't trust you. And now we can talk about that, right? So it's a great question to frame, like, where are we? So it's like, if this were perfect, would you do it? Sometimes they'll laugh. If you have rapport, they'll laugh. They'll say yes, right? And so then you get to flip it and say, then what's the difference between perfection and what we've got? And the thing is that people are very hard. They don't actually know how to generate making a program because they're not going to like know all the things you can deliver on the spot, right? And so they're like, most of the time, they'll be like, I don't know. And you're like, right, well, because it sounds like it's nothing to do with the program. It's all about to do with you. So let's talk about that, right? And then all of a sudden, boom, one step closer to the truth. Does that make sense? Yeah. All right. And that's why we do hypotheticals. So if we're perfect, what's missing? And then if you can, if they do give you an answer and they're like, I just don't want to do broccoli. And you're like, I do green beans, would you do it? They're like, yeah. And you're like, great, green beans it is, sign here, right? Like, you would be fucking amazed how many times shit like that happens. It's like one crazy thing. It's like, well, if we didn't have that, would you do it? Like, oh yeah, sure. Where were you 10 minutes ago, right? And that's how you do a hypothetical. Okay, we're making progress. Still with me? Still digging? Cool. Authority, all right? This is one of my favorite things. And so this one, instead of having 3, I really just have like one very good statement of reasoning that you should understand, okay? This is real shit. So this is more of a process than it is anything else. But the spouse or decision maker is not there. Right? Now, note for you guys, a lot of you guys have had the opportunity to go talk to a spouse, but a lot of you guys don't have that in your business, right? Like, spouse ain't there, and they leave, they're not coming back, right? Or they are, but a very small percentage don't wait for it. Okay, so what we have to do is try and sidestep it by isolating the objection and casting aside the partner, because the partner's not there. So how could they object to anything? They don't even fucking know who you are, right? And so the idea is, and again, this is assuming if you have a really long-term thing, then you want the partner to be there. Right? Like ideally that's what you have. But if you don't have the opportunity, then you got to go to the next step, all right? Which is, what do you think they wouldn't like? And then they will tell you, and then you just overcome the thing, which has nothing to do with the spouse. The spouse isn't there, right? Very easy side step. Does that make sense? This works really well. It's like, why wouldn't they? It's like, well, because they don't want me to fail. Ooh, they don't want you to fail. Let's talk about you. And so this is the process that I walk through. Do they approve of your current struggle? Are they happy that you're struggling? No. Okay. Then why would they not approve of something that's going to fix something they already don't approve of? Right? They're not happy with how you're currently doing. Why would they be against something that's already making them unhappy? Right? Right. Well, let me ask you this, and they'll pause. Well, if the roles were reversed, and your husband needed this to make what he wants, his dreams happen, or your wife needed this program to make her dreams happen, would you support her? Then why wouldn't you support you? Right? Right. And I think the real problem that we're dealing with here, and this is the kicker, this is for everybody, is that you're asking for permission instead of support. Because it is your life, not theirs. And what happens is, if you give that power to them, and then 2 years from now, you're still fat, You're still poor. Whatever it is, who are you going to blame? Them. And so that's when you have a resentful marriage because you didn't own your shit. And so I'm not saying you shouldn't explain the decision to them, but the way you explain it to them is what I just said, which is if I don't do this for me, I'm going to end up resenting you. And I don't want that. And instead of me bitching to you every day about how we don't have money or about how I don't like my body, I'm now doing this and I'm joining a group of support, of community of people just like me. And crazy enough, for some reason, doctors go to college, right? Right? That makes sense. They go to medical school, lawyers go to law school. But where do entrepreneurs go? There's no entrepreneur school. No one teaches this stuff. But it turns out there are people who teach it just for this specific industry. And I can take failures of 1,000 people and pack it into a year. And it's 1/10 the price of a 4-year degree. Right? And so instead of whining to you, what I commit to is I'm going to show up and be a better husband, a better wife, a better partner. I'm not going to bitch to you about the stuff because I'm going to take this seriously. I'm going to go all in, and I'm not asking you for permission. I'm just asking for your support. All right? That's how you can overcome it. Because I'm be real with you. It is about them. And you have to believe that. You can't say this unless you believe it. Because you save marriages by showing people that they're the ones in control. Because if they keep saying, my husband's not going to let me buy a weight loss program, what do you think she's secretly saying? Can't believe I won't do it. Right? If that's real. If she's using it as a foil, you sidestep it, you get to self. Right? But that might be the real thing. And if that is the thing, then you have to let them step into that. And that's where, having a 3-day no sweat guarantee or something like that is also helpful. It's like, hey, sign up. And I use a lot of humor and humor in my selling. And so I'd be like, hey, Cindy, if you sign up and you tell your husband and he's upset, and when he sees you, he's like, girl, I don't want you to get in shape. I want you to stay overweight. I want you to put those sweatpants on. I want you to sit on that couch, reach your hand in a bag of Cheetos, put the Cheetos fingers on there. I want you to create generational unhealth. I want you to live 10 years less long. I want you to see our grandkids. I don't want that, right? I want to marry a younger, better you sooner because you're going to have a heart attack. If he says that to you, you have him call me, and then they're cracking up. And you're like, okay. Listen, sign up, 3-day no sweat. If he does tell you that he just wants you to be out of shape and never leave him because he just wants you to get too hot because he's insecure, if he says that, yeah, just let me know. All right? So, the whole time you're just joking and stuff. But the 3-day guarantee helps, nudge a lot of these people over. Is that cool? You guys get that one? Okay. And so that goes for you, right? It's about support, not permission. That's the bottom line, right? Support, not permission. Because otherwise you're going to blame them for your lack of dreams being realized rather than blaming the person that should, which is you. All right, so this is avoidance. Now we're getting to the core. We've gotten rid of time. We know that you've got time, and the best time to do it is today because you're going to be busy forever, right? Value, we know that you can't afford it. If you can't afford it, you'll buy it. If you can't afford it, it's a great reason to do it. And if the value's there, then there's no reason not to because it'll pay for itself, right? And what's money good for anyways? You're going to pay for the program regardless. You want to pay in less time or more time. Value's not a problem. Fit, you got to step into an identity, right? You've got to be willing to change. And the question is just whether the pain that you're experiencing is less than the pain of the change that it takes to experience the next thing, right? They step into that, they're good. Because it's not about resources, it's about resourcefulness. So fit's not an issue. Authority, they have to own it. It's about support, not permission. We all here? Do you feel like we peeled the layers back on your prospects? And they're just laid bare naked there? You've solicited the sale. Now you got to close, all right? Avoidance. So now they're like, wait, I need to think about it. So, now that we've exhausted, I'm putting this as emphasis, we've exhausted all outside reasons. Now we're finally talking to someone in power. And that is what a good coach does. We don't make decisions for people. We help them make decisions. So here's I have to think about it. Not sure. Give me a hand. Who's dealt with someone who thinks that way? All right. At least one person here. No, I'm kidding. All you guys are great. So this is how I divide this up. Past, present, future. And so hopefully this should already, before I dive into these, give you simple frameworks to work through. Time, you've got macro, micro, when, then. Right? You got value. You're thinking about it's not a lot of money. Even if it were a lot of money, it's not a lot of money. You're going to pay for it either way. But you have the simple frameworks that you can walk through. You might just hit them with one. And if they hit it with again, hit them with the other angle. Because they're logical frameworks. They're not scripts. That's why I made them bubbles. You don't have to memorize it. You just got to understand it. Past. So like, I need to think about it. And so the thing is and this, the first bubble there is if someone's like, I feel like this is happening so fast. Everyone get that one? Like, I just got on the phone with you. I don't really know who you are. And you're like, hey, this is not a fast decision, right? You've been making this decision for the last 6 years. You continually make the decision. All we're doing today is deciding you're actually going to do something about it, right? A long time. So this is not a fast decision at all. But the thing is that, and this is where you go sunk cost. So if I were talking to you guys, I would say, you bought tickets because you saw some ad. You registered there. You got your flights. You got a hotel. You blocked the time. You flew here. You listened to this whole thing. You're 6 inches from gold. This isn't a fast decision at all. You did all these things to get here because it's important to you. So don't let that distortion stop you from getting what you want. Right? It's fear. Right? Let's face that. What are you afraid of having happen? Which, by the way, I took the slide out. But my 2 favorite questions to ask in a sale that I feel like are the fastest to cut through is, what are you most afraid of having happen if you buy? What are you most afraid of? What's the worst thing that you envision in your mind? And if they're not sure, I just fill in the blanks. I'm like, I take your credit card, I swipe over as much as I possibly can, I go to Vegas, I put it all on black, and then I go to Monaco where they can't extradite. Fair enough? And they're like, I was not thinking that. And you're like, right. So what's the worst thing? What's the real thing? And they're like, I just have bought so many programs before. You're like, right. Let's talk about that, right? And so I'm going to skip one forward, and then I'm going to go back to it. This is one of my favorite obstacle or objection overcomes. I call it don't let it burn you twice. And this, literally, you can see the date. It happened yesterday. This girl texted me, or messaged April 6th. She said, it's crazy to think that I had a sales call with you 6 years ago, and I'm kicking myself in the butt for not jumping on. This is yesterday, right? Like, I don't even own the company anymore. And I said, you let a bad decision burn you twice. Once when you made your poor investment, but a second time when you let that bad investment stop you from a good investment. It would be like, anybody ever have a boy? Just come on, help me out here. Okay. It would be like having a bad 8th grade boy. There's good coaches, there's bad coaches. There's crazy ass bitches and there's crazy ass dudes. You know what I mean? Like, there's also good ones. And so the thing is, if you let the bad one prevent you from the good one, you get decision, right? And so when someone has had a bad experience with doing keto, or whatever the fuck, right? Or you had a bad experience with some program that you did or did not do, or they didn't fulfill, whatever. Either way, don't let that burn you twice, because no matter what you're going to have to do, you're going to have to do these actions, whether you're part of the program or not. You got to do these workouts, whether you're part of the program or not. It doesn't matter. You're going to have to do it. So you might as well do it. Somebody's going to get you there faster, right? Let me go back one real quick. So, it's not a fast decision. This is another one that I love, which is, do you think that you're maybe in this position because you have struggled to make a decision in the past? You have waffled when it came time to make the hard call? Have you been in this conversation and said no before? Your life. And the last one is like, are you tired of another year of almost? Right? Tired of another year of almost hitting your goals, almost getting to 10K a month, of almost, hiring the team that you wanted, of almost retiring your wife or husband, or almost moving into the neighborhood that you wanted to move into, or almost being able to pay for your kids' recreational sports rather than not being able to because you can't afford it. Are you tired of another year of almost? Well, if you're tired of another year almost, then we can't do what we're doing to get here for another year, because we're going to get another year almost. And so the question isn't what it costs you, but how much has it cost you to not decide up to this point, right? The cost of inaction. And I think that when we think about our lives in reverse, we never regret the things that we did, we regret the things we didn't do. The opportunities that we let pass by. And I think that if you can let that person step into that power, they will make a decision to help themselves, like this person did not. All right, present. So, depends on who you're talking to. If someone's talking about past stuff, then you deal with the past stuff. The second frame for avoidance is present, which is they just don't know how to make a fucking decision, right? And so you have to help them make a decision. And so this one, the rocking chair, is one that I just, for some reason, have used a tremendous amount of time, especially when I was selling weight loss, is to be like, I just really, really need to think about it. But like, totally understand. Well, let's walk through like what that looks like. You're not gonna like go home, sit in the rocking chair, smoke a cigarette, because of course you're not healthy yet, right? You'll quit when you're healthy, right? You're smoking your cigarette and you're like, Am I going to do this weight loss program? Am I going to sit there and just stare into the clouds? I wonder. No, of course not. You're getting in your car and you're going to realize you got to pick up Timmy from soccer practice. You got to get groceries. You got to cook. You got to clean. You got to pick up, go do the laundry. You got to do all these things, right? And then 3, 4, 5 days from now, you're going to put on that old pair of jeans and it's not going to fit. And you'll be like, fuck. And just there, you'll have made the decision. You'll keep living your life. And so let's just make it now. Because the reality is that it doesn't take information to make decisions. Sorry, it doesn't take time to make decisions. It takes information. And I'm the only source of information you got. So let's talk. I'm here. I'm here for you. Let's do it. Right? Because that's the fallacy. Is that people think they need more time to make decisions because they assume they will get more information in that time. But if you are the source of the information, then time does not help them. And so let's confront it now, and let me answer the questions you have to make the decision, one way or another. Does that make sense? All right. And so then they're like, well, then fuck, how do I make a decision? You're like, glad you asked. So there's 3 things that we got to understand. Do you believe that this product or service is going to help you achieve what you want? Yes or no? They're going to say yes, right? And if they don't, you can confront it. Note, all of these are confronting decisions. So we've moved all the way down the onion, right? We're at truth now. And the theme of the last bullet is confrontation. We have to confront the decision. We got to peel it back and be like, are we going to do this or not? Right? Because we already got out the time, we got out the fit, we got out the spec, we got everything out of the way. It's just you. Do you think that this is going to help you get closer to your goals? Yes or no? 2, do you trust me to fulfill my word? That I said I'm going to help you, I'm going to do these calls, I'm going to do these workouts, I'm going to do whatever. Right? 3, this is probably the most important one. Do you think it'll work for you? And if they say no, you say, why not? And then they have to defend why not. And then it's very easy. At that point, it's a 6-inch putt. Right? And once they say yes to all 3, which is usually what will happen, be like, cool, we'll make the decision together. Do you know how to make the decision? They'll say no. You go through the 3. And the last question is, they said yes, yes, yes. It's just, do you have or have access to the amount of money to get started? Do you have the Amex? Do you want to help you enroll in an Amex? Because I want to help you. I'm good either way. But if you believe that this is going to help you get closer, you believe that what I'm saying is true, and you believe that you can be successful, then it's my moral obligation to get you going and do everything in my power to help you get the money or get access to it. Because the real is, if I was giving you a Ferrari right now for $5,000, you'd find the money. If your landlord needed you to come up with $10,000 because you had background in payroll, you'd find the money. So find the money. Let's do it. Right? 3, who wants to make informed decisions? Yes? How can you make an informed decision if you haven't even tried it? Huh? So this is when you have some element of trial in the program or some sort of guarantee, which is why I'm a big fan of guarantees. It's like, well, you can't make the decision to buy that's informed until you're on the inside. So I'm not even asking you to make a decision right now. I'm just asking you to make an informed decision, which you can only do on the inside. And if after 30 days I'm not what I said, this product doesn't do what I told you, I didn't fulfill my promise, and you don't think it's going to work for you, you let me know, I'll give you the money back. Low pressure. You get someone to decide by not deciding. Even easier. Does that make sense? Think that'll help you close? Yeah. All right. And then this one is, it depends on who you're selling to, but sometimes if you have a logical person, it's like, do you know what deciding even means? Like where the etymology of the word comes from? It's decadere, which is Latin, which means to cut off, to kill off. And so the question is, which future are we killing off today? Are we killing off the future of the dreams that you want? Are we killing off the future? Are we killing off the future of not doing anything and the life that you've lived up to this point? Because indecision is a decision. Inaction is an active decision, right? And so it's just, which one are we killing today? Are we killing your dreams or are we killing your past? Second last one, future. So we talked about past. So if they're thinking about the past, the things that hurt them, don't let it burn you twice, etc., right? They don't know how to make a decision. Rocking chair. This is how you make a decision. 3 things. You have access to money. Great. Let's get going. You want to kill your past. You want to kill your future. Right? Awesome. When we're talking about the future, this is actually magnifying pain, which is, cool, you got here. It's been 5 years you've been struggling. How's another 5 years sound? What if we just keep doing, let's go with indecision. Let's look at it. What does 5 years of you doing what you've been doing look like? And is that a place you want to be? No? Got to change the change. Let's do it. Right? And then you go right into, let's consider the options, which is like this is logic, right? So let's consider the options. Option 1, you do the thing, you get the result, life is awesome. Option 2, you don't do the thing. You don't get the result because you didn't do the thing. Option 3, you do the thing, but then you don't get the result. All these are the options that can happen in front of you. Because we have a guarantee, they're all risk-free, except for one of them. Only one of them has a true guarantee of not getting you where you want, which is walking out the door. So which risk-free option do you want? The one that's risk-free, that guarantees that you're not going to get there, or the one that's risk-free and has the potential to get you where you want to go? Right? That's not an emotional close. It's logic. And if you have an offer that's set up that way, you should be able to close most people as long as they don't think you're an asshole. Right? Okay. This is one that's more around urgency, because again, this is avoidance. If someone says, I'm still not sure, I want to think about it more, whatever, you say, well, you're not going to struggle forever, right? Like, you don't want to struggle forever. You're going to do something about this, whether it's weight loss, business, whatever. They're going to say yes. You're like, well, if you're going to fix your business eventually, you might as well start fixing it now so you can start enjoying the fruits of that labor sooner. Would you prefer making more money faster or slower? What's your preference? Great, so if you're going to do it eventually, you might as well do it now. Does that make sense? It's a little nudge. This is a final one that I just really like from a framing perspective, which is, instead of this has to be my savior, this program has to get me to an IFBB Pro bikini body, and I'm 100 pounds overweight, probably not realistic, right? Reframe the question is, do you think that making the decision is going to help you get closer or further from your goal? That's it. Because if we keep making decisions that keep getting us closer, we will get there eventually. But if we make decisions that get us further away, we will not get there. And so do you think that this is going to get you closer to your goal than what you're currently doing? Yes. What are we waiting for? We don't need to be snipers. We need to be directionally right. If we do that long enough, we'll get there. Does that make sense? That helps you too, because we have this fear of perfectionism. Is this going to be the one? Probably not. But it will get you fucking way closer, right? So I can tell you, there's no one program that changed my life. But the decision to buy education changed my life forever. Does that make sense? All right. Boom. And so let me look at the top. We have no reasons left not to own the power that you have. It's just you. All right? And here's bonus number 6. And you can use this as one of, there's some closes that you use all the time you always go back to, right? The reason you are telling yourself not to do this is the reason you do it. How long do you want? I can't afford this to be on your list of problems in life. The fact that you don't have time is the very reason you need to do this. The fact that you're so dependent on your spouse is the reason you need to take this decision and own it, right? The fact that you're not sure about the person that you want to be is the very reason that we're going to help you get it in this program. So whatever the reason is usually the biggest chain that you're holding on to, is the thing that you're enslaving yourself to, is the thing that you're casting your power to. If you break that chain, power comes back to you. And so the very reason that you're holding yourself back is typically the very reason that you need to do it. So hopefully, this helps you realize that you and your clients are always in complete power. Did I accomplish that? Awesome. And like I promised at the beginning, my hope is that you become more powerful by making decisions rather than letting life make them for you. All right, so here's a few final thoughts. Fortunes are created by taking a lot of risk with a little bit of money. Fortunes are maintained by taking a little bit of risk with a lot of money. And every one of those people that was self-made takes a lot of risk with a little bit of money. And sometimes you need to take that step because it's the only way to build the fortune. All right? And if everything that I've ever made in my life, everything that I've made in my life is a result of investing in my own education. It has gotten me far higher returns than any stock, any real estate, any crypto, right? Any whatever, by a mile. And people say it's all about investing in yourself. I think it sounds amorphous. It's buy experience and skills. Because no government can take that from you. No divorce can take that from you. Nothing can take that from you. And I come from a family where, we're Persian. And so my parents had to flee Iran during the revolution. And so they had land and houses and other stuff, right? And my uncle was the brother to a guy who started the lottery in Iran. He owned the lottery, because you can do that there, right? Very rich. And so my dad and him, he went to London, my dad went to the US. He had no skills. And he was able to just forge enough money to buy a print shop, and he lives above the print shop in London. And still to this day, that's what he does. and went to visit him. It was incredibly sad seeing just like, well, once and his wife, my dad gave her a scarf, and it was like a nice scarf apparently, and she just bawled. She's like, I used to have rooms of these, and now I have nothing, and blah, 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 right? My dad came to the United States with $1,000, but because he had skills, he built it all from scratch. And so, I mean, he was a doctor, as all Middle Eastern and Indians are, right? Doctor, lawyer, accountant, engineer. Anyways, the only 4 approved paths. But when we say invest in that, we come from a place where, like, it was literally all taken. The government was like, that's our house now. That's our land now. That bank account is our bank account now. And so that was why it was so, and like, that might be a benefit for me. I had somebody who was always like, it's the only thing no one can take from you. And so why would you not invest in the one thing that can never be stolen, can never be taken, and compounds with time? And it increases your capacity to make money. It increases your capacity to live. And so I like to think of the investments that I've made in myself as bricks on a bridge. And so if I'm on the bottom left here, and where I want to be is the top right-ish, right? Looking like the Nightmare Before Christmas now. You're going, like, there are many skills that it takes to cross the bridge, right? And just like you have an arithmetic teacher in high school, once you learn calculus, you're not like, that guy was a load of shit. Calculus is what, no, you have to learn things in sequence, right? And so the thing is that we build this bridge, it's one brick at a time. And I always come back to the same question, which is this going to get me closer to where I want to go? I don't need it to get me there. I just need to get closer. And if I get better, I'll get there eventually, right? As long as I don't stop moving. And so that's why what I've dedicated my life to education. My mission is to document and share the best practices of building world-class companies. Because when you realize that you are the source, you realize that Superman is not coming. It's just you. And every decision that you make is a vote towards or against the person that we want to be. And so the question for you is that, are your decisions voting towards the person that you want to become, or just more of what you already have? And so people ask me all the time, how do you move so quickly? And the answer is, I know how to buy time. And the follow-up question is, how do you buy time? You buy time by buying the time it took other people to make mistakes that taught them the lessons. That's how you do it, right? That's the hack. And so right now, the ignorance of not knowing how to create $1 million a year is costing you $1 million a year. The fact that you don't know how to make $1 million a year is costing you $1 million a year. Think about it, right? And so therefore, you should always be willing to invest money to increase the capacity for your income. Because once you have it, that capacity pays you forever. You're increasing your ability. Does that make sense? We're widening the pipe. And so when I thought about this, I just added zeros to it, and I was like, it's fucking costing me $1 billion a year not knowing how to make $1 billion. God, right? But it's true, because the number one tax that no one appreciates or no one respects is not the tax of the government, it's not capital gains, it's not income tax, it's the time tax of ignorance. Someone asked Layla yesterday, what's the number one thing that people from 0 to 10K are messing up? You don't know what the fuck you're doing. That's what's messing you up. You're ignorant. You have no idea. You're eating an orange like an apple. No clue, right? And it's not because you don't have the processing power. It's not because you don't have the ability to reason. It's because you just don't know. And so the goal is to pay down the time tax of ignorance as fast as humanly possible. And the only way you do that is by educating and investing yourself, right? Specifically, investing in experiences that build skills. So make the decisions to help yourself, implement like crazy, take ownership, because we just discovered that all of the other shit is not real, is literally a distortion of reality, that anything that you give your power to that's not you is fake. You're making it a false god in your life, and your prospects are too. And now you know how to confront those when your mind tries to play tricks on you. And realize that there are no silver bullets. No program is going to save your life, all right? But some things can move you close to your goals. And when those rare opportunities present themselves, take them, all right? Because either you win or you learn, and both of those get you closer to wherever you want to go, all right? And so I'll wrap up with this. 10 years ago, that was me in a swanky, when I was a consultant, looking cool. It was actually after, I don't even have a good picture when I was a consultant, but there's me in a suit. And I knew I hated the job that I had. I made okay money, but I just really wasn't happy. And I emailed 40 gym owners and I was like, hey, I think I want to get in fitness. Can somebody like help me out? One guy was like, sure, you can work for free. I was like, awesome. That guy was Sam Bakhtiar. And anybody know who Sam Bakhtiar is? Raise hand. Jeez, okay. Well, Seven Figure Sam is what he used to be known as. He actually died during COVID, which is really sad for me because I really looked up to Sam. And the thing is that when I got to his office, I literally drove across the country from Baltimore to LA, or Chino Hills, which is where he was. And I showed up without notice, and he was like, you're a psychopath. I just met you from the internet. And I was like, I'm here, ready to learn. He was like, I'm going to lunch. And, but right after he came back from lunch, he was like, all right, so you should join my mastermind. And I was like, I don't have a gym. And he's like, that's okay. It was a gym mastermind. And I was 22. Like, I did not have a lot of money. And he was like, well, it's 10 grand. And I was like, I don't know. And he's like, you need to fucking commit, man. He's like, you've been waffling back and forth. I had multiple phone calls with him before I left. He's like, I think you need to draw a line in the sand. And thank God he did. Because I did take a step over. I had no idea what the fuck I was doing. But I was trying to start paying down the time tax of ignorance. And I got around a whole bunch of other fitness professionals, and I learned way more from all of them than I ever learned from Sam. But because of that, my beliefs started to change, the ways I saw the world changed, the traits I started to embody changed, and started taking steps. The mastermind I got from Sam is not what made me $100 million, but it got me on the right path towards making it. And so if you can make those choices, I think it's these small steps, not believing that it's going to be a savior, but believing that it's aligned with where you want to go, and believing in yourself that if you keep walking on this path, you'll get there. So thank you guys so much.
Downy, free and gentle. Softer clothes for skin's sake.
Today's topic is going to be preparation within the context of work. And so what I want to do today is actually reset your bar for what preparation looks like for the highest achieving people that I know within different contexts, whether that's sales, whether that's marketing, content, whatever, customer success. All of these contexts have different types of prep. There's 2 different ways to prep that I'll talk about and give you some tactics that you can use and maybe send to your team as well, because hey, if they prep more, you'll make more. I'll give you an example of like a resetting that just recently happened for me. So I'm obviously very big on the amount of reps that it takes. Like volume negates luck is the number one quote that we have in the sales team wall, so that the guys understand like it's just about the reps, and we just say it all the time. It's repeated over and over again because we also believe repetition of the same beliefs is something that will drive them to remember this thing, because we need to be reminded more than we need to be taught. But recently, even getting into this content game, this is about a year ago, I was talking to Eric, and so Eric's a content creator who has, I don't know, 10, 15 million subscribers, something like that on YouTube. And we were saying, I was like, hey, what can we do to make our YouTube videos better? And so he said, oh, just send me over your prep case for the videos. And I was like, what do you mean? And I was like, you mean like the notes on my phone? He was like, no. And I was like, can you send me one of yours so I know what you're talking about? And so he sends me his most recent prep for one of his videos, and it was like 22 pages for like a 15-minute video. And I was like, oh, okay. So my understanding of how much work it takes to do something at this level is wildly under what the reality of it is at that level. And so I attended something. He invited me to like a little creator meetup with some of the biggest guys on YouTube. I'll just say it this way: you would know everybody in the room. And when we were there, they were all discussing how much time it took them to prep for videos, and a lot of these guys were spending 2, 3, 4 straight weeks of 12 hours a day to make one video per month. And I will tell you this, is that it was in no way surprising to me after going there for 2 days what it took and why those guys were the number one in that industry for making content that was exceptional. And so it completely reset my standard, reset my bar for how much preparation was required to be exceptional. And it was because, and this is why it's so silly for me, because I feel like I keep learning and relearning the same lessons, but just in new domains, is that the people who are doing way better than you are just working so much harder. And the thing is that people think that someone's working like 2 times as hard or 3 times as hard, because we tend to think in increments. We're like, okay, well, I work this much. Someone must be doing twice as much work. But it's not even close to that. These guys are doing like literally 100 times the work. And it's not only that, they have a team of 10 people spending 4 weeks to prepare one 15-minute video. Like, the order of magnitude in terms of effort there, you multiply it by 10 times 12 hours a day times 4 weeks, all of a sudden you really are at 1,000 times the work, 1,500 times the work to create, to be fair, an outcome that is 1,500 or 10,000 times better than the average YouTube video or whatever it is that you're making. And obviously I'm just using this as a content example, but it applies to anything. It applies to sales meetings, it applies to how you prep for a date, it applies to how you meet the parents or the in-laws. And so I'll tell you a second story. So I used to do some consulting stuff, and I had a guy who was a friend, or was a business acquaintance, who said, hey man, I would love it if we could spend a day together. And I was like, I don't really do that. And he's like, just name a price. And I said, fine. Actually, total fun side note story with this. I was like, fine, I'll do it for 50 grand. This was ages ago. And he said, how about 35? And I said, how about 75? And he was like, all right, 50 is cool. And I was like, all right. And so just a side note, when someone says, hey, can you do it for less? You can always say, hey, I can do it for more. And every single time I've used that overcome, it has worked. So right now it's like 100% overcome for using that. Highly recommend using it in a sales situation, because people are like, okay, I got it, understood. Like, that's your price. So that was first half of story number 2 with consulting. So when I did that day, what I did was I started that morning. I think we were going to start meeting at 9. And so I woke up at 5. And I spent 4 hours reviewing his business, right? Because I figured my day was going to be shot. This is going to be my day. Like, I'm not going to try and do anything else. And so I spent the 4 hours prepping. And I came into the day with, I think, 4 or 5 pages of notes of like, okay, here are things we could do here that would be better. Here's things on your follow-up sequence. Here's things on your landing pages. Here are things that you can do from a content. Here's how I think your CTAs could be better. All of this stuff, right? And so I came in with it. And the next like 4 hours, I just spent showing him what I had spent the morning going over. And at the end of the day, he was like, I have genuinely never had anyone come this prepared to something. And to me, I was like, it was 4 hours of prep. It wasn't like a crazy, you know what I mean? To me, 4 hours of prep is nothing, you know what I mean, in terms of work. But it was really confirming, because this guy obviously had the money to spend 50 grand for a day or whatever. And, that he had not had that type. I was like, it still bewilders me. And I see that more so that it is remarkable how low the bar is to beat everyone else. And so that's what I take as my takeaway from that. Like, on one hand, you've got Eric and some of these super creators who are spending thousands of hours on one single piece of content. But I think if you like do consulting, or you do some sort of work where you do the same thing over and over again, like, you can have like a 4-to-1 ratio. If I go into a meeting and it's a 60-minute meeting, you can take 15 minutes before you get into the meeting. And I think like a 4-to-1 ratio is really our 1-to-4 ratio. Like, if it's a 8-hour day, spending 2 hours. If it's a 60-minute meeting, spending 15 minutes. If it's a 20-minute meeting, spending 5 minutes before you get on, will make the 20 minutes 2-3 times more effective by just having that little bit of block to say, who's on this meeting? What's the background of this? What's the agenda? What problem are we trying to solve? It just absolutely focuses you and makes you a driver in the meeting. I can just absolutely like promise you that. Now, third one. When we have founders who come into the portfolio, so when we invest in a company, one of the things that happens most commonly is a lot of them are running paid ads, or they start running paid ads. So it's either way. So either they're running ads and they hit some sort of plateau, or they want to get into running ads. And so I'll tell you the story that I explained to almost all of them, which is, I say, all right, how many, what do you guys spend in a day? And they're like, all right, we're spending 5,000 a day. Okay, fine. So how many new ads are you making per week? And a lot of time they're like, oh, we record ads once a month. And I'm like, okay, well, how many ads do you make? And they're like, usually 5 or 7 ads. And I'm like, okay. So let me give you some context. We make about 30 ads a week. And that's new unique video. Now, that's not repurposing of that. That's 30 core pieces, which then get zillioned out in terms of like, let's take the hook from number 1 and put it as number 3 and then redo the same video. Those would be permutations that go from 30 to like 100 pieces of creative. And as soon as I explained that, they're like, oh, and I was like, so you're doing 5 to 7 and you're complaining that you can't scale, but the reality is that you just can't scale given this level of creative. Like if your creative is a 5 out of 10, you can get to 5,000 a day profitably, but you're not going to get to 50,000 a day profitably because you're not getting that 1 out of 100 ad that can scale to colder audiences or newer people. And so it's just the, like, if you have a mediocre ad, like many of you guys who start running ads are like, oh, I get it to $100 a day, but I can't get it to be profitable at $500 a day. It's like, yeah, because your ad is so bad, it can only go to the absolute hottest audience. And then as soon as it goes outside of that very hot audience that kind of knows you a little bit, it stops working. Right? And so if you went from a 5 out of 10 ad to a 7 out of 10 ad, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I can get to $500 a day. And if you get to an 8 out of 10 ad, you can go to a $5,000 a day. Right? But the 9 out of 10 and the 10 out of 10 ads, like that's what converts the world. But in order to get that 10 out of 10 ad, you have to do so much more preparation before you do the ads and actual total volume of work of doing the ads itself. And so I share this stuff because my entire goal of this right now is to reset your expectations of the amount of preparation that it takes to be good. Because it's so easy. It's like mediocrity is so easy to do because you just do something and hey, anything's better than nothing. So if you're doing nothing, then absolutely start. But what happens is people are like, why isn't it working for me? And it's not working for you because you're not working nearly as much as what is required to get that level of output, right? So let me tell you a different story. So I had a buddy of mine's a billionaire, and he wants to start making content, which is I'm a huge proponent of this because he actually has stuff to say. But he's still learning the content game, right? And so he's like, hey man, can you look at my Instagram and tell me, or sorry, can you look at my social media and tell me what I'm doing wrong or what I should be doing better? And so before I pulled up his thing, I was like, well, how many posts are you making a day across all platforms? And he was like, 1. I'm doing 1 a day right now. And he said it like that, kind of like, he was like, yes, I'm doing 1 a day right now. And I was like, all right, man. At the time, we were making 50 a day. We make more than that now. And he just looked at me and he was like, you don't need to say anymore. He's like, I got it. Like, he understood in that moment the same thing I did when Eric showed me his prep case for his YouTube videos. I was like, I get it. Like, he said, thank you for resetting my measuring stick. That's what he said. It was like you reset my bar, reset my expectations of how much work it takes to get to that level that I want to get to. Hey, if you want to get around people who are actually winning, who look like you, who smell like you, who talk like you, and are doing what you want to do, I'd like to invite you to the School Games community at school.com/games. I take calls in there. I put content that's like this and more personalized inside of that community, and I drop a huge amount once a month, an 8-hour training on how to actually take this stuff and win anyways. So if that's interesting, school.com/games, see you in there. I share this stuff because I think one of the biggest gifts of surrounding yourself in a championship team. So there's a book by Angela Duckworth called Grit, which is a good book. But one of the things that they talk about in the book is that one of the best ways to develop grit is to surround yourself with people who have grit. So one of the for sure ways to get better at a skill is surround yourself with people who already have that skill, who are ahead of you. And so that's why joining a championship team is one of the best things you can do to understand what is required to win. And so when you're the story that she tells in the book is swimmers who want to get better at swimming, if you can make the state team or whatever of like a championship team, all of a sudden there's standards of work that you didn't understand is what everyone's doing. So you go from like, oh, well, I'm swimming twice a week, and that's what you can do to be best in your high school or whatever. I'm making up the numbers. But when you go to the championship team, you realize that they do 3 hours a day, twice a day. And all of a sudden you're like, oh. And it's that same moment I had with Eric. I was like, oh. And the same moment my friend had when we talked about the social media, was like, oh. It's just this massive bar reset of like, oh, this isn't like a 2 times as much thing. This is like a 50, 100 times as much. And so it's just when you realize how much work it takes to get good, you realize how few things you can get good at. And that's where the focus becomes so important, because the only way to get that good is to do a few things. And so that's where the strategy of picking or prioritizing the things that you want to get good at becomes more important, because you just can't do 100 times the work on 100 different things. And so making sure that you're allocating your resources to the one thing that matters most, which then forces you to prioritize what you're spending your time on, which, by the way, I think is a really good activity. If you can spend a day or a week saying, okay, if I could only have one thing be true about our business, if I could have, like, if we have more traffic than anyone else, we will win based on this model or whatever it is that we have. If we have more referrals than anyone else, then we will win no matter what. If we have the best advertising in terms of paid ads, if we just had that one thing, we will win. If you can be very clear about that one point of leverage, then you attack it with absolute onslaught of hours of work and repetition and preparation for those repetitions that then yield you even more. And so it's like, I'll give you the ad example I was saying earlier. If I'm doing 100 ads a week and my competitor's doing 7 ads a month, I'm doing 400 to his 7. All right. So I'm doing, I don't know what the math is there, but a lot. It's at least 50 times, 60 times more, right? Than he is in terms of volume. But not only that, but when I go into that advertising day, what am I doing beforehand? I'm prepping I want to prep all the hooks at a time. I want to do research of past ads that have done really well. I want to take different ad styles that I've seen across social media in general that I liked. I'm like, I wonder if we can make a version of this for how we're going to advertise our thing. And by the way, I love taking from other spaces, like seeing a hotel ad or an Airbnb ad and be like, ooh, that's would work really well in this software company that we have. Oh, we've got this dry cleaning business that would work really well, this ad for a gym or whatever, right? And I have this little swipe file on my phone where whenever I see an ad I like, I save it and then I also screenshot it so that when I get into my prep sessions, I already have my stuff that I want to use to prep in front of me. And so one of the big other things besides resetting your bar of expectation of how much prep it takes to win is that the more you prepare for stuff, the more frequently you do it, the better you will get at preparing. So preparing in and of itself is a skill, right? And so like the first time you prep for making ads, the first time you prep for making content, it's going to take you longer and you're going to be less efficient at it. But if you know, for example, this is your 100th time preparing for making a podcast or whatever, like this is my prep for this little podcast here. I wrote this out ahead of time. I was like, these are all the things I wanted to hit on because I think they're important, right? And so I think in terms of resetting the bar, start thinking in hundreds rather than ones and twos. So it's not that somebody's doing twice as much work or 3 times as much work. They're doing 100 times the work. And in the example I gave earlier, sometimes way more than 100 times the work. 2 more quick things on this, and then I'll let you go about your day so you can start preparing. So Elon Musk recently talked about something, well, not recently, but I heard an article or an interview from him that he said, he referenced Parkinson's law. So Parkinson's law, for those of you guys who don't know, is that work expands the time allotted, right? And so I think what you don't want to do is over-prepare for the wrong thing. And let me put my caveat there, is that I actually think there's tremendous ROI to cramming, meaning he uses Parkinson's law in reverse, which is that it also, if work expands the time allotted, it can also shrink to the time that you shrink to. And there's a reason that kids cram. It's because it's really high ROI on their time, right? If they prep for weeks and weeks and then they take the week before the exam off and don't look at anything, sometimes they do worse than just cramming right before the test. And so people aren't idiots. Like, we know that cramming works, which is why we do it. But I think I'd highly encourage thinking about prepping as cramming. I actually think it works amazingly well in a business context, but people somehow have said it's like a bad thing because I don't even know why teachers say it's a bad thing. At the end of the day, like, you either aced the test or you didn't. And so whatever. Now, in terms of long-term, like, I think, not sleeping the night before probably impacts your performance more. But if you just study the day before and you study the morning of, I'll promise you that the studying the morning of will get you more than what you did the night before in terms of immediate result on the test, more than long-term retention, which is different, just to be clear. But the thing is if you're doing a meeting, you're going to take notes and then you're going to delegate stuff. And so you being able to run that meeting effectively based on you cramming for that meeting, super high ROI on your time. And so I absolutely love the concept of cramming within the world of business, because a lot of times you do have something you just need to do once and you need to impress the client. You need to impress the boss. You need to just come prepared for a company presentation that you're doing in front of a whole team or a department or the whole company entirely. Going back to the 2 types of work there are, or 2 types of preparation you have. You have preparation for things you're going to do that you do many, many, many times, which you get better and better preparing for, which means you can actually shrink the amount of time you need to prepare. And I think the closer you do the preparation to the event itself, the more valuable it is. And so that is why take the 5 minutes, literally actually take the 5 minutes before the meeting to say, okay, this is John. Let me look at his profile real quick. Okay, John's, he's out of Milwaukee. Okay, the Bucks are doing well. Let me see if he follows the Bucks. Okay, he tagged something there. And his wife's name's Joyce. Okay, got it. So you get on the meeting, you're like, dude, John, how's it going, man? Dude, the Bucks are killing it. Oh, that's fantastic. How's Joyce doing? She's good? Great. And I saw, is this Mike? Is this Mike? He's your VP of customer success. Hey, Mike, nice to meet you, man. I was just looking you guys up before I got on. Really cool stuff that you guys are doing at XYZ Corp, right? As soon as I say that, they're like, immediately, in 60 seconds, they're like, this guy prepared. And that's what it communicates. And the thing is that the idea that someone knows that you prepare literally separates you from so many other people who just show up and they're like, oh, what are we going to do today, right? And so, sure, you should absolutely be prepared in terms of the agenda, in terms of your scripting for how you run these meetings, but you get so much return on demonstrating that you prepared. Like, people know if you prepared. It completely blows them away. And I still, to this day, they're like, dude, thank you so much for taking the time. Like, I feel like you knew our company. I feel like you knew our business, like, even better than people that I've spent, I've had vendors who did all this stuff. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to walk into a meeting not knowing who I'm talking to. Like, what are we going to do? Spend the whole time fact finding before I can actually make a recommendation around something? Well, that's such a waste of time for you and me, because I know what I'm looking for. And it's going to be really inefficient for you to exchange it via verbal, and I can just click around and find out what I need to do. Especially if you're looking at it from an external way in to, like, okay, why are prospects not converting? Well, I don't need to talk to you. I should look at what somebody who doesn't talk to you would see so that I can make the recommendations or conclusions. And sometimes that kind of preparation is more valuable because they're not going to give me the whys and the why it's difficult, because I don't care. I'm a prospect, right? Or at least I'm going to put those glasses on. And so back to the one-time thing versus the many-time thing. If you do it a lot of times, you're going to get better prepping, and I would say prep as close to the event as you can, and I think a 4-to-1 ratio in the beginning is good, 15 minutes to 60, 1 hour to 4 hours in terms of prep to how much work you're going to do for whatever the thing is, and over time it can shrink a little bit, so you can be like 1 to 10, so it's 5 minutes for a 60-minute meeting. But for the things that you're going to do one time that you have never done before, that's where it actually expands the other way. It goes like 10, 20 hours of prep for 1 hour of presenting. And so determining how much you're willing to prepare for something that you're only going to do once rather than something that you do all the time, in my opinion, comes up to the stakes and the returns. And so if you're going to go do a speech in front of 1,000 people and you've never spoken before, and ideally, hopefully it's a topic that you do understand, but you just haven't spoken in that environment before, then I want to control for every other variable that can approximate me speaking in front. So one, I want to master the material, for sure. If you're getting up there and you don't know what you're talking about, or like the things you're going to talk about, well, dear God, like, no wonder that you suck at talking, right? Now, beyond that, it's how many ways can I approximate this? Like, for example, going live on social media can help you approximate a live audience in person. Is it perfect? No. But is it better than just talking to the mirror? Probably. Now, if you aren't going to, now this is a real one. This is actually from the fitness world. If you get used to squatting, for example, I'll bring it home. If you squat in the mirror every day and you can see yourself and you're squatting, if you go to a competition, this actually happened to me in my first competition. I worked out at a gym that had a mirror in front of the squat rack, and so I just always squatted there. I didn't even think about it. When I got to a competition, I had the squat rack, and when I looked out, there was no mirror. It was just a crowd of people watching me squat, and I was like, oh, this is weird, because I didn't even realize, but it was actually so different from how I trained. And so from that point going forward, I turned around in the rack so that I would be facing the gym, at least, so that I wasn't looking at the mirror, so that it was closer approximation to competition. And so as many of those variables as you can control for, you want to have in the prep, so that the prep as closely as possible approximates the performance. And so there's cramming for like you having information that'll better arm you for consulting, sales, customer success, whatever. Which, by the way, if you're in customer success, like spending 5 minutes before you get on the call with a customer, like reviewing the call notes, reviewing the notes from the sales team, looking at the person's profile before you get on, dear God, will they think it's absolutely amazing, and it takes this much work. Like they will think you're 3 times cooler with 5 minutes of work for a 60-minute call. Like, I almost think that you saying, hey, give me 5 minutes at the beginning of the call and starting 5 minutes late will still, even though I hate starting late, would still yield you a better outcome at the end of the 60 minutes than starting on time and not being prepared. it comes down to the return on effort and return on time. And so if you're going to talk to 1,000 people, and these are, let's say, your ideal customers, well, if I was going to have 1,000 one-on-one meetings, how much would I prepare for each of those one-on-one meetings? That was 60 minutes. I might prepare 10 minutes, right? Well, if I have 10 minutes times 1,000, that's like, I don't know, 167 hours, right? Something like that. And so if 167 hours of prep for that one thing, now realistically, that might not make sense because you do have diminishing returns. And so that's why speaking one-to-many is higher return. But just to give yourself a context, it's like when we did the book launch, I was like, dear God, how much do I prep for 1,000-person audience? And I'm going to have 500,000 people there. I'm going to have 500,000. I'm going to have 500 times. Well, I better not waste anyone's time while I'm there and make sure that every second, the value per second is super high. And so I think, again, we have to reset our expectations of how much work it takes to prepare for the one-time performances based on what you expect to get from it. So if you're going to do a one-time performance to 10 people, then maybe you prepare for 4 hours, right? But if you're going to talk to 1,000 people, then maybe you prepare for 40 hours. And if you're going to talk to 10,000 people, then maybe you do prepare for 400 hours, or it does have a diminishing term, so maybe it's 200 hours, right? But I think what most people miss out on is they get up and they say their talk once, and they do it once to their wife and once to their dog, and they're like, I'm super nervous. And so I'll leave you with this. You are not nervous. You're underprepared. It's not that you have anxiety. It's that you didn't do the work that you know you should have done. And so if I have anxiety about something that's coming up, that has become my telltale sign that I am underprepared, that I didn't do the work that I know I should have done, and that's when you get nervous. When you can get up on stage and you can do, or whatever your version of the performance is, and have absolutely zero anxiety, it's because you absolutely habituated to the stressor. And so, for example, if you want to get someone to stop being afraid of spiders, the fastest way to do that is get them into a room with spiders and let them sit there, have a fucking panic attack, pass out, wake up again, pass out, wake up again, until eventually they habituate. They just realize that they don't die, and they're still there, and there are spiders, and they keep living. And then the phobia is gone. They habituate. And so what you want to do, or at least how I like to do it, is I want to habituate to the stressor, which is if I'm stressed about this thing, then it means I haven't prepared enough. And so it's not imposter syndrome. You're just inexperienced. You're just not good enough yet. And so I want to make sure that I can control for all the controllables first, and then leave room for the uncontrollables, but have all of my bandwidth available so that when the mic cuts out, or the presentation isn't working, or my clicker runs out of battery, all of these things have happened, that I'm still prepared enough that people are then like, damn, he handled that really well. It's because this wasn't my first time. And that's the difference, is that like when you don't want people to think it's their first rodeo, and so many of you are going into every meeting, every call, every appointment like it's your first rodeo, and they can tell. Everyone can tell. And the people who can tell the most are the people who you want to impress the most. Like, it's very easy to impress poor people because they don't know any better. Much more difficult to impress a wealthy person because they know how the game works. And so I see this with the Rolex Flex, or I rented the Lambo for the day and look at my Instagram picture. Anybody who's really in the game is like, dude, my jet costs 500 Lamborghinis. Like, I could give a fuck what you drive, right? Like, the way you impress them is you outwork them. So to impress poor people, you outspend them. To impress wealthy people, you outwork them. That's the difference. So if I see a kid who's not flexing any of that stuff, but I see how hard this kid's working, that's what impresses me. If anything, I see a younger guy who's like blowing cash to like flex, I'm not even neutral. I'm less impressed. I'm like, dude, what are you playing? Like, I'm like, who are you trying to impress? And then whatever they say, I'm like, it's the wrong person, man. Because the right girl also is impressed by how hard you work. Because they know what that leads. Because people take wealth as an approximation for character, and that's not true. They say, I have this Lamborghini, therefore I work hard. But if you just spend way beyond your means, which is what I see it as, especially if you're younger, I just see that as irresponsible and insecure. And so it's making sure that you're putting the right bait out. And the best bait for getting the right people is the effort that they know you put in when they weren't looking. And you only do that by when you show up the first time, it looks like it's your 100th time. And they know it's the only meeting you have with them, and that you took 20 hours to prep for it. They're like, all right, this kid's got it, or this guy's got it, this gal's got it, she gets it. Like, that's all I'm like, immediately, it's just like I had that conversation with my billionaire buddy. He was like, you don't need to say anymore, I get it. And I feel that way with vendors. So if I get on the phone with someone and they have clearly 10 hours of preparation, 20 hours of preparation for that call, they don't need to sell me that hard. I'm like, I get it. You've demonstrated in advance the value that you want to provide before we started working together. Like, I get it. Like, whatever the bill is, send the invoice, team will take care of it, let's start working together. When someone spends all their time trying to sell me, and I'm like, what did you do to prepare? And they're trying to overcome with their words, you already lost. And so many of you guys are losing before you step into the arena. You're trying to ride a bull for the first time on your first rodeo, and then thinking that you need to have some special talent or some natural whatever that's going to make it work. Like, why so-and-so's different or better? It's because that guy has spent 3 hours a day, morning and afternoon, every day for the last 2 years riding bulls. And so he doesn't have to think about that. His only thing that he's thinking about when he's on the ring is the uncontrollable, so that he can use 100% of his bandwidth for, oh, I had the meeting and then he brought 2 people I didn't expect. Well, tell me more about that. Oh, that would work well with page 2. If you turn to page 2 in the prep file I have, I think this will be really applicable for you. And when we get there, I'll definitely need your insight. Oh, wow, he included them in. But if I didn't have that prep ahead of time, I'd be like, oh, wow, I had a game plan, and now it's totally screwed because there's 2 other people who are stakeholders. So, TLDR, you're underprepared most of the time, most of you. And I'm saying this because I talk to you guys a lot. 5 minutes of prep for a 60-minute meeting will do more than trying to razzle-dazzle your way through with your words once you're on. I think Sun Tzu said, every battle is won before the battle begins.
Yes, just make me look nice. Hey, you want a weapon? Play game. Let's go. Hey, green. Wait. Come on, blue. Uh, all right. Ah. Huepu. Ah. Ya voy pues entonces. Sí. Solo me voy a esconder. Guys, I need to do something. You have to go. I don't know. You can go wherever you want, please. I need to stay here alone. Go, go to loot. I catch you later. I catch you later. All right? Thank you. Oh shit. Let's go. Alright, I got me. Oh yeah, sniper. Let's go. Let's move. Come on, Green.
No.
No, he took off. What happened? I have
You
other.
s-
Oh my god, I don't have a
You
regular
saying
comic book.
that? You saying that, and then he comes back and starts killing us?
Like that?
Oh nope,
Oh,
he's
there he is.
behind. I'm like, he's like that. A gas can for your car.
I need a regular comic book. No, that wasn't him. You have to wait for us? Let's go to the water. You have to wait for us? Green. Come on, Blue. They know where we are. Do you want Mike? Let's go. We need to take another car. We need to take this car. Wait for us, Green. Don't go. Hey, we need to move. Come on. Quickly. They are camping in the area of okay. We need plates. Alright. Hey, do you want this? No. Ah, fuck. Fucking bad. Let me go to the radiation. Help me. Come on, get inside. Let's go. Alright. We need to go to... Come on, we can jump. We need self-revive, man. This is the container. Oh fuck. Wait. Come on. Come on. Come on. The roof. But we need a car, man. Hurry up, we need to move. Quickly. Vaya, voy, amor. No hay que gastar en esto. Hey, Green. Green. Come on, we need to move here. Wait, come here. Take this. Let's go. We need to avoid the... Hey, in the gas station we can find gas. Hey, Green, come here. Fuck. Green. Let's go. We need to jump from here. Carefully with the red point. Don't go inside on the red point. Hey. You. Who doesn't have mask? Wait. Who doesn't have mask? Take this. Use it. We need gas. Do you want to go to Coche? We can go to Coche. Hey, gas mask. Let's go to Coche. Come on, we can go to Coche. Come on, Blue. You can do the glitch. You can do the glitch. Alright, we made it. See you guys.